Welcome back for the tuner part of this operation. And already I have made a mistake. I knew sooner or later it was going to happen. Things were going just too smoothly. Atwater Kent, rather than put an adjustment screw, down through here and here and here to adjust these mica trimmer caps, instead of putting a screw down through there where, you could just putting your mica on top. No, they put the mica on the bottom, ran the screw up from the bottom, and then soldered a brass nut to the brass screw. Well, when I first saw these, I didn't realize that was soldered on there. I thought they were little B nuts that had maybe been glued to the end. So I stuck the old, the old socket on there, and then I, with my little Dumaflachi right there. Let me get this thing in there. Anyway, I stuck it on there like that. And then I put a screwdriver in this screw right here. Let's see if I can get this light over here. Maybe we can see a little better. I think it's a little dark for you. Maybe you can see now. Anyway, I put the screwdriver in there. I put this on the nut. And then I started to turn left to unscrew it. Well, it didn't come off, and it didn't come off. So I put a little more pressure, I said, boy, they really glued that thing on there. Well, I've never seen these before. I've seen these, but I've never seen it done this way. This was a stupid idea by Atwater Kent. They soldered the nuts and made them look nice and round. I thought they were little B nuts. And I didn't bother to remove the solder. So what happened was I kept unscrewing and unscrewing, and I think I might have stripped out one of the threads in that little brass collar down there. But once again, we do not worry about such things. There is a fix in the making already. So if it turns out this thing is a little bit stripped, it's not, I am not going to lose any sleep over it. I will show everybody how to fix it. So maybe it's a good thing it did happen. And those little brass collars they have a slit on each side, it expands when the screw goes through it. That's what keeps it in place. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is heat this with a soldering iron, heat this with a soldering iron. Then I'm going to take the old solder extractor, and this time I'm going to extract the solder off the nuts before I try to remove them, because I want that mica out. Now somebody may say, well, why don't you just leave it like that? Hey, this is a restoration. I'm going to tear everything apart and redo it. All this rust has got to go. That's what a restoration is. Don't cut corners. Well, all three screws are now out, and all the mica is out. These are the final two pieces of mica. I'll be cleaning them with some alcohol and my brush, and they're going to go inside this envelope. And I took the screws. At first I took this slotted collar here. It's got a slot on each side of each collar. Let's see if you can make that out. A little slot there. And I took a pair of pliers and just kind of squeezed them together, and then ran the screws back up through there, and they're nice and tight. They'll snug right up now. So no more stripped. And what happened was apparently I pushed too hard on the screw when I was unscrewing the nut, and it spread the collar apart. So that was a lucky break there. But if it hadn't been a lucky break, we know how to fix these things. It's called Plan B. So now we're just going to do what we always do to get rid of rust. Just be real careful, though. You don't want to get any of this navel jelly on the aluminum vanes, the aluminum plates of your tuner. Just got to be that's why I like to use a Q-tip. You're in total control. Total control. Put it around there. And working on your tuner, getting the rust off it, is not something you can do in one shot. It's going to take probably 2 days of, putting it on, letting it sit, washing it off. It takes a long time, because you have to be real careful. It's not like you can just slap it on there and let her, let her rip. You don't want to do that. These tuners are very valuable. Be very careful. You want to get as much of the rust off as you can. I wish I could just take it down, put it in the chrome vat, in the acid vat of the chrome vat, and just let them eat away, but I can't do that with this. It would have been a lot easier, I'll tell you. But, you know, that's the fun part, you know. Therapeutic. You don't worry about it. You just stick it on there and try to get as much as possible. Then I'll flip it over and do the other side. We've also got quite a bit of rust on the bottom of the tuner. A whole bunch of it all up in here. And like I said, a couple days of work at least. Just, you know, applying, taking off, reapplying, taking off. We're not in any hurry. There is never any rush. I cannot say that enough. If it takes me a week to do this, so what? Well, there it is. I've got the first coat of nail jelly smeared all over it. All over it. Now we'll just let it set for a couple hours, and then I'll slap it underneath the sink, let it dry, and do it again. Well, there's the first go round with the old nail jelly. It took quite a bit of rust off this hole. This rust was gone here. Of course, it left a lot of residue. I'll have to get the residue off, but of course that'll be the job of the ultrasonic cleaner before it's done. The rust is off the bottom. We got a lot of rust off of here, and on the front. Looking real good so far. Looking real good. We'll give it one more coating. Then we'll start really cleaning this baby. With the rust removed, it's now time to go ahead and put it in the old ultrasonic one more time. Probably going to give it about 4 or 5 more baths. I want that thing to be as spotless as possible before I start working on it by hand. It'll take a little bit of hand work. You can't get away with just an ultrasonic cleaner unless you got like a really big one, really powerful. So let's go for it. I've been working on this tuner for about an hour now, you know, getting all the little residual powder left over on it from the navel jelly and anything that might have still been in the water during the ultrasonic bath. There's always a little a little film on it of some kind somewhere. You can't do it all by machine. So what I'm doing is I took 800 grit paper, black sandpaper, and I folded it. It's got 3 layers, fits nicely between the blades. You know, 1 layer is no good, 2 layers are no good, 3 is perfect. And you just kind of go up and down, one to the other. I've already finished with this one. You can probably see the difference in color, the shine, and these are kind of dull yet. And then when you get done with that, you can go ahead and take a smaller piece, you know, that looks like this. Again, triple it, stick it down between the slots, and just kind of go up and down with it, you know, get it nice and clean. Each one, slot to slot to slot. Take your time. This is something you sit down and watch a movie or something, or just get on the back porch with a cup of coffee or someplace quiet, you know, where you can just kind of really, you know, think about life, you know, and you get it looking nice and good. No matter what you do, you're not going to get it 100% clean, so don't think you will. Just do the best you can. I have a brass bristle brush here, you know, it helps me clean it. Now keep in mind, you know, this is a fairly large tuner, so that's why I have this thing folded 3 times. Now a small, tiny little tuner, of course, you would not fold it 3 times. It probably wouldn't fit between the blades. You just have to, you know, call it like you see it, you know. You got to use a little common sense now when you work on these things. Now once you're done, you know, with this little side right here, with these, and here, or you can just do 1 set at a time, it's up to you. You're still not done. You got to flip this baby over, like so. We got to get these back here with the same piece of paper we used on the other side. Just do the best you can. Make sure they're all the way open. Do the best you can. Take your time. And do the same thing. You're not trying to grind down the metal on these plates. That's not what you're trying to do. You're just trying to get rid of any residue that might be down there and little metal hairs that somehow these aluminum plates develop over the years. They develop these little hairs, and then they connect between one another, and you'll actually get sparks. So that's all we're doing. So probably in about another hour I'll finish this thing up. Once again, this video is going to run a little bit longer than I had anticipated, but we've got to keep plowing on. I want to make sure we get through the entire tuner. We have a lot of work to do still on this radio, and I want to get this tuner video section over with. So I'm sorry about it being so long. Now that we're all done messing with this thing, I've cleaned it as much as I can. I can't find any rust anywhere that I can get to. There may be some rust down in here, way down in here somewhere, but I just can't get to it. And I don't see it. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not there. Now that we're all done messing with it, and we put our, our meat hooks on it and messed with it and screwed around with it, we want to make sure that these plates on the rotor do not make contact with the plates down here on the stator. There's 3 stators here. 1, 2, 3. The rotor rotates, the stator stays. Cool, huh? The rotor rotates. See it rotating? The stator does not move. The stator stays. Now these 3 sets of plates on the rotor, they're connected to the frame through the shaft, the bearings in the shaft and everything, and this bolt back here that holds the whole thing together on the end. This adjustment, there's an adjustment bolt back there. So all 3 of these are going to be connected together. So, and they're all touching the frame. So we'll go ahead and I'll keep your eye on the meter again here, and we shall watch. I'll show you how all 3 are connected. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Now that's the rotor. All 3 of the rotor blades, sets of blades, are connected together. Now the stator's different. The stator, each set of these does not have continuity between the other. So if we come over here, get this baby up here, we can go ahead and connect this. You'll see some brown stuff down around these things right here. That's an insulator on each one of these. There's also an insulator on the bottom set too. Brown insulators around this metal portion here, here, and here. Now if we take our multimeter and connect it to one of those little connectors down there, we will have continuity with this set right here. See it? Okay, I just touched it. Just touched it right there. But we will not have continuity with these 2. They're touching one. Now I'll go over here and touch the other. No continuity, which is good. Now we'll move our little alligator clip to the other one. Now we should no longer have, let me get this a little closer here, we should no longer have continuity on this one because we moved a clip. And we don't. This one here, where we have the clip, we should have continuity. And we do. Good. Let's go over here and make sure there's none over here. Nope. Now we'll move the clip one more time. So here we go. There we go. Cool, huh? Alright, now all that did was make sure that we had continuity still on our rotor and individual continuity on our stators. Now we have to make sure that none of these blades are touching these blades. So we'll go ahead and set that up. I now have my alligator clip, the positive lead connected to that little tab down there, and the negative lead connected to the frame. Now let's rotate. We have to do these individually because there's no contact between these 3. So now let's rotate our rotor and see if we get any continuity. We'll rotate it through the entire cycle. No continuity. Good. Now we'll move our lead over to here. Make sure there's no continuity when I go back the other way. Alright, good. Now we'll go ahead and move our lead to the 3rd tab over here, and we'll rotate it back the other way. Hopefully we won't have any continuity on this one. Good. I'm a happy camper. Must have done something right. We're getting down to the wire where we only have about, I guess maybe 3 steps left. Short steps, The first one is to clean up and just kind of remove any residual dust that may have accumulated from me, you know, sliding the sandpaper down in between the plates and everything. So we'll take a little bit of just basic old contact cleaner. Let's go ahead and give it a good spray down in there and get it nice and clean. Give it a good shot all the way around. The next step was to tape off selected areas. This is where the wires will be soldered, coming from the antenna coils and the oscillator. So I didn't want, I don't want those coated with clear enamel, which is what we're going to be putting all over this thing. And I covered up the vanes and of course the brass shaft. And you just kind of go through it and cover up stuff you think needs to be done. I also covered up, stuck them down in there, little strips, and then just kind of inserted them down in. You kind of call it like you see it. I know some people who, when it comes time to spray the tuner, they just spray the whole thing. They don't care. They spray plates, they spray everything. I personally don't think that's a hot idea. I just got done cleaning all in between all the plates, and the last thing I want to do is put spray paint down in there that might flake off at a later date. And again, we're right back in the same situation. You got little sparks going back and forth between the plates. But that's how I see it. I don't know. I do it this way. You can do it any way you wish. So what we need to do now is just put a nice clear coat on there to protect it so it doesn't rust anymore. I'm using clear acrylic. Doesn't really matter. I'm using the acrylic. Trying to get rid of it. I have too many cans of this and too many cans of that out in the shed. I've got to do something. Part of the restoration process with the tuner is you not only clean the tuner, but you should also clean the mica. The mica gets really scrungy over the years. I mean, it gets just as built up with crap and crud as the rest of the tuner mechanism. But you have to be careful with mica. It's brittle. It's a mineral. It comes out of the ground. And they took this stuff and shaved it real thin. And the reason they used it on these old radio tuners was it resisted heat. It wouldn't break down too easily under heat, and it also had good dielectric properties, which meant it would insulate between the two plates very well. So as you can see now, the way I do it, I just take I use a paper plate, take a brush with longer bristles, so it's kind of soft. You don't need stiff bristles. I just dip it down in the alcohol, then hold one end of the mica with my finger, and then just kind of gently move back and forth with the brush. Now, as you can see, the one on the left I just got done cleaning. The one on the right has yet to be cleaned. See the difference between the two? So let's clean the one on the right and see what that looks like. Remember, I'm just going to hold one end with my finger like this, and then I'm going to take the brush with alcohol on it and just clean it. Then I'll flip it over and clean it. Be careful. This stuff is brittle. I warn you, it will break. Take your time. If the kids are screaming, hollering, and bothering you, wait until they're gone. If the wife is on your case, wait till she goes to sleep. You don't need to, snap this stuff. You snap it. Of course, you can get mica on the internet, but why go through all that crap? Now, after it's been lightly scrubbed with alcohol and a brush, a quick pat dry with a tissue. Keep it flat. Keep it flat. And then slide. This is why I like to use a paper plate, because you can slide it up a little bit and it'll kind of go up and you can get a hold of it easier. Then you flip it back down, pat the other side. Okay? Now, when you get done, this stuff is not going to be crystal clear. The idea is to get the crud off of it. Once you get the crud off of it and it's all dry, then you're in much better shape when it comes time to put it back together. Okay, one more to go. Alright, there are the three pieces. They look pretty nice compared to what they were. Now, as I said, be very, very careful with these things. But these are big ones, easier to handle. Some of them are very small. And if someday you decide, to clean a small one and it accidentally gets chipped, cracked, broken, to where there's going to be contact between the two plates, obviously, you can't use it anymore. Someone told me one time that you can take plastic from one of those blister packs, they call it, that have pills sealed into plastic. Find a flat spot, cut it out the shape of the original mica, and put that between the plates on the tuner, or even on a trimmer cap. They claim that, the guy claimed that works well for him. I don't know, you know. I had forgotten that one of these fiber washers on one of the trimmer cap screws had broken apart when I took this whole mechanism apart. One of them just kind of fell into 2 or 3 pieces. So apparently it had been tightened up way too tight at one point, or just dried out and fell apart. These two are okay. And I guess I'm going to have to stop off at the old hardware store and pick one up. It's right now I've just got the mica in there and these little this little clamp and the screw and everything, just to kind of hold everything together. These two are okay. The bushing or the washers are there. Everything's good to go. So what I have to do now, until, you know, I'll just let this one sit temporarily, but these two, I've got to solder the ends of each of these brass screws to these nuts. And it's kind of interesting, there was a slot down the end of each of these screws, but they still chose to solder the nuts on. So I'm going to go ahead and take my old soldering iron, solder this one and this one. Won't be any big deal. And then as soon as I get the bushing, I can do the same thing to this one that I'm going to do to these two. But when we get done with these two, then we'll go ahead and grease this thing, and we'll be just about done. Well, there they are. The first two have been soldered in place, nice and solid. Now let's mix up a little grease, and let's get some grease down in those bearings down on this shaft down in here. There's about 8 or 10 ball bearings down there. And then we're going to grease along here, and along here. And we're also going to grease down in here, down in the bottom, down in there. I'll show you how I do it. There's various ways that, of doing it, of course. I like to use a mixture of white lithium grease by Permatex and some 3-in-1 motor oil, it's called. It's not the lightweight. I used to use the lightweight until someone told me about the motor oil. Boy, that works a whole lot better. You just mix the two together into a nice little, syrupy little mess here. And I like it because it's easy to put down in. It sticks to the screwdriver when I drip it down in, but if you get enough on there, it will drip off the screwdriver, which is what I really like. Alright, let's get our little oil down in there. Just drip that old oil right down in there, all around those bearings. All around those bearings. Don't be afraid to put it in there. Of course, you don't want to get it all over the plates. Now, don't get your oil and grease mixture, or whatever it is you use. There's 100 different ways to grease these things, and 100 different, ways of mixing up grease or using grease. It doesn't matter. Get it down in there. And then we'll put a little bit here as well. I'll be wiping a lot of this off when I'm done. Just go ahead and wipe it around down in there. And we got a little bit more over here, I guess. Put a little bit down in there, just right along, wherever that shaft goes through from one end to the other, okay? Well, that's it, folks, with the exception of this fiber washer I still need to put on and soldering the nut. We're going to go ahead and call this one a wrap. I can pick up that washer tomorrow or the next day. It's all been oiled. Everything's working very nice. Boy, she's just smooth as silk. We'll go ahead and call this one pretty much restored. Best I can do. Best I could do. Sorry for the long video. I don't like long videos. I usually get, unless the individual's really charismatic, about halfway through a long video, I get pretty bored. I prefer to have the shorter ones. Okay, next time we'll finish up a few more of the tidbits that are left on the top of the chassis. A couple of items that we have to still do. So, thanks for hanging with me through this long, tedious mess. Until next time, this is John.